I need the scoop.
A night out in London turns into a desperate search when a partner vanishes without a trace. I'm diving into a Reddit story that had thousands of users on edge as a frantic search unfolded in real time. Follow along as this tale of a missing person, a found phone, and a city of strangers reveals how quickly an ordinary day can spiral into a nightmare of uncertainty.
My partner and I live in North Wales. He took the train down to London to meet up with his dad and have a day out. At the end of their day out, my partner was supposed to go with his dad back to his house in Cambridge and stay the night before making his way back to North Wales in the morning. Instead, they ended up falling out and going their separate ways. His dad left on the train back to his house in Cambridge without my partner, who ended up staying in London. I last spoke to my partner at about 10:40 in the evening over WhatsApp. He was sitting in a bar near St Pancras. We decided on a hotel for him to stay at, a 5-minute walk away from where he was, and he said he was going to make his way there. I called and messaged him a few times over the next 30 minutes or so, and he wasn't picking up or messaging back. Eventually, a stranger picked up his phone. He said he found my partner's phone on the pavement outside the bar and took it home with him, intending to hand it into the police station. He tried to give it to one of the bar staff, but they refused to take it. We agreed that he'd post it back to us in North Wales, and we took each other's details. I was worried because my partner was in London with no phone, and his train tickets back to North Wales were e-tickets on his phone. He didn't have any cash or physical cards on him, and I rang the hotel we booked before he left the bar and he hadn't checked in. It was now 4 a.m, and the hotel promised they'd get him to ring me when he arrived, but I hadn't heard anything. It's not atypical of him to get carried away on a night out, so I decided to give it some more time before contacting any authorities. I rang the hotel again, and he didn't check in that night, and I hadn't received any contact. Knowing how hard he is on himself, I reckoned losing his phone was the final straw for him, and he decided to stay out for a few more beers with the little physical cash he had, to beat himself up a bit and decide what to do next. He's a social butterfly, so I just hoped he'd buddied up with some friendly Londoners who could help to get him home. The train he would have been on was due in about 30 minutes, so we were close to knowing if he'd managed to somehow get back. He could be on a later one too. No one had heard anything from him still, though I was actually oddly comforted by this, as I took it as a sign he hadn't found himself desperate enough to find any possible way of getting in contact. Finally, he was found. He reckons he was pickpocketed by someone who bumped into his shoulder as he walked past. They must have not wanted anything to do with his old smashed phone, so they chucked it on the floor slightly down the road from where he was walking. After having a freak out, he got chatting to a nice guy who took him home and let him sleep on his sofa. This absolute legend sent him away with £30 to buy a temporary cheap phone and a train back to where my parents live down south.
The Reddit community rallied around this worried partner, offering practical advice and even volunteering to physically search London locations. As hours passed without contact, anxiety mounted, and the possibility of something serious happening became increasingly difficult to ignore. Then, just as hope began to waver, an update arrived that would change everything.
He's been found! He reckons he was pickpocketed by someone who bumped into his shoulder as he walked past. They must have not wanted anything to do with his old smashed phone, so they chucked it on the floor slightly down the road from where he was walking. After having a freak out, he got chatting to a nice guy who took him home and let him sleep on his sofa. This absolute legend sent him away with £30 to buy a temporary cheap phone and a train back to where my parents live down south.
In a world that often seems cold and indifferent, it's the kindness of strangers that reminds us of our shared humanity. Share your thoughts on acts of generosity that have impacted your life in the comments below, and subscribe to hear more stories of unexpected heroes emerging in times of crisis. Check out our other videos about remarkable human connections that form in the most unlikely circumstances.